Hey, and welcome to my new podcast, Phoenix Unleashed. Hey, amazing people, it's Kylie here. I hope you're all having an amazing day. In this episode, I wanted to talk about contracts. Now, previously, I posted a podcast episode about past life sessions and what they entail. And when I go through a normal past life session, when I finish it off, I ask your soul, your subconscious, your inner self a few questions. And one of the questions I ask is, do you have any contracts in place that need to be removed, or any contracts that are no longer serving your highest potential? So I had a few people ask me, what are the contracts? What could it be? So I thought this was a great opportunity to share with you the contracts that I've encountered, and also the contracts that when I studied quantum healing hypnosis technique, so QHHT with Dolores Cannon, there was a couple that she mentioned as well. So predominantly there are three main contracts. Now, this is not excluding, I'm not going to go into like karmic contracts and individual soul contracts that you have when you come to Earth. Everyone signs a soul contract to be here. You come to Earth, it's a learning school, and you sign a soul contract before you get here about who you are, what your name is, what you're here to learn, who you're going to meet on the way. So I'm not going to go into depth about that. If that's something you want to know about, I'm more than happy to do an episode. Just ask below and I'm happy to go into that a bit more. Now, karmic contracts between two people, so pretty much like what you're here to learn, or if there's any karmic debt that you need to pay off. Now, I'm not talking about those type of contracts. I'm talking about three main contracts that can be detrimental to you in this life going forward. So what I mean by that is generally contracts that you've made either in this life or in a past life that you've put out there into the world and haven't finished. You haven't broken it and it's still sort of lingering. So as I mentioned in my previous episode, when I go through and I do a past life, we finish it off and I ask questions about, do you see any significant others? Is there any residual energy in the body? Is there any contracts? Now, the most common contract that I come across is the vow of poverty. So the poverty contract. I've had it in a couple of instances. So the first instance I've had that is when I've gone back into a past life and the person from that life has been a monk or a nun or sometimes even a priest, and they've taken a vow of poverty. So they've pretty much said, you know what, I'm happy to live wherever I am. I don't need materialistic things. I'm here for whatever God provides, blah, blah, blah. The vow of poverty, most of us have heard of it. So when that happens though, because they've set that intention in a past life, what generally happens in this life is because they are still under that vow of poverty, they tend to have issues with money, finances, or other things that are coming in. So in my experience, I have had a few clients that have had a vow of poverty contract still there. And it has affected, they have had troubles with their money beliefs, or felt that they've had troubles with money coming into them or abundance coming in because they had made that contract in a past life to live in a vow of poverty. So when that happens, and when we get to the end of the session and I ask if there are any contracts in place, and generally someone will say, oh, yes, you know, there's a vow of poverty, or I made a vow of whatever it is. We'll get into the others in a moment. I just direct them that if they believe it's to their best and highest good, to rip it off. If it's no longer serving them in this life and it's causing a hindrance, they can rip it up. So it's absolutely up to them. I leave it up to them because I'm not here during a session to tell you what you think you should do or inform your path on what it is. I'm here just to direct, find the answers, find the answers that you seek, see where, you know, some of these beliefs or blocks could be coming, and then moving forward with that. So I generally just get them to imagine ripping it up and then getting rid of it. So I have had monks and nuns and priests where they have had that, where it has been a contract with a vow of poverty that has been affecting them. And I have had clients rip it up. And then after that, they have felt good in themselves and they felt like the energy is cleared and they've been able to, you know, have more abundance come into their life and also more money. They've been able to then go for promotions and paychecks and get all that sort of stuff, which is awesome. Now, I've also had a client who took a vow of poverty in this life that it came up. So she was coming out of a bad relationship, and she had pretty much just said, look, I need to get out of this relationship any way I can. I don't care. I'm happy to live in poverty. I just want to start on my own, be on my own, and not have this narcissist have control over me. So in that moment, by projecting that out there, she had given herself a vow of poverty. Now, I didn't, or a contract in that sense. Now, that's the first time I had experienced anything like this. And this is what her subconscious had told me during this. When I asked, oh, is there any contracts in place? It said, this was the contract that's been made. So same thing, if it's to your best and highest good, can you please remove it? And she decided to remove it. After the session, she even came out and she goes, I remember making that contract, and it no longer serves me. It was what I needed at the time. So it was good that it had been ripped up. So vow of poverty contract is one of the ones that I have encountered. Now, the second one that I have encountered is abstinence. So can also be around being a monk, a nun, a priest in a previous life. Can also be in other bits. So, for example, if there's been trauma in the past life, maybe there has been potentially sexual assault, or there's been something else in the sexual department that has caused this. People can take a vow of abstinence. And I have encountered that. So in regards to that, pretty much what it, in the examples that I have encountered, it had caused some sexual issues in this life. It had also caused, in one case, it did cause some fertility issues, but I believe that was down into the sexual part of it. So people can seem to take a vow of abstinence so that they're happy to not live with that, with sex, and not needing the touch, the physical touch. Sometimes it's not always about sex. It can also just be about not wanting to be touched or be in a relationship or anything like that. I have encountered that. And it is generally from trauma, or it can be because they've also taken that vow, along with vows as a priest, nun, or monk, they've taken the vow of not needing to ever to abstain from having that and have abstinence. So same thing, if it comes up when we do the contract and I ask the subconscious, I say, hey, is there any contracts? And they say, yes, there's something about abstinence in regards to personal touch or not wanting to be, at all interested in anything sexually or in a relationship, then I will ask them for their best and highest good to remove that. So I have had in the past where it has helped with some sexual dysfunctions, but it is not the most common one that I have come across. And generally when people are coming to me in regards to, it's always about the money and the vow of poverty. The last contract I want to talk about is an obedience contract. So I guess you could call vow of obedience, but mostly it's pretty much a control contract where people have come into this life indebted, or not even indebted, but they have a control contract with someone else. So I've encountered this a few times where they say, I do have a contract, or their subconscious sees it as a contract. So that's the symbolism of the subconscious mind. It says, look, there is a contract in place with such and such. There is to be control. So, and I've asked, look, is it going to affect their karma if they remove it? Because that's really important. I'm not here during these sessions to mess with the karmic wheel. I'm not here to mess with any soul contracts that are in place. So this is why I say, is it up to your best and highest good with how this can be changed? So in one instance, I did have a lady who had escaped a domestic violent relationship, and the guy wouldn't go away. He was just hanging around. So after we did the session, I said, hey, look, is there any contracts in place? Not even knowing that part. Like, she had not told me that that was an issue. She hadn't told me that she was in this, that she had left a relationship, that she was in a domestic violent relationship. She shared with me what she felt was right. She didn't share that part with me. And when they said, look, there is a contract in place, it's a control contract, I asked, does she know who it's with? Yes. In some instances, I will ask for who the person is, and they will give me a name. In this instance, they said that it was with her ex-husband. And with that, we actually pull that contract up because it was not serving her highest good. And from what I believe, when I last spoke to her, he had gone on his merry way, which is amazing. But control contracts or obedience contracts, as Dolores mentions, is another contract that can be out there. So I have encountered this a few times, as I said, with control generally in a relationship. I've also had it where it's been a boss of someone, and they've had a control contract from a past life. So generally it can be from if the past life was perhaps in a servitude type of relationship, or if they were in maybe a controlling and domestic violent relationship in a past life, that can come through if the contract hasn't been broken. So I did have another lady in the instance who was in her past life. She had a very not a nice past life is the best way to put it. She was in a very horrible relationship, and she had mentioned that she had a contract in place, and it was with a new boyfriend that she was looking at dating at this time. So everything is recorded during these sessions. So I've just, in this instance, I said, look, if you want to crush up the contract, you can. If you want to crush it up, that's fine. And then I just ask questions. So I'm not here to lay judgment on the session. I'm not here to question everything or lead people down the right path. I'm here just asking the questions for their unconscious mind, and then allowing their unconscious mind to come back at me with answers, and then I let the person listen to the recording. I send the recording. So I don't keep the recordings. They're not for me, they're for you or for my clients who have taken part. So I will only keep a recording unless I know that the person hasn't opened it or looked at it or anything like that. And then it's up to the person. They can listen to the recording if they want to. They can listen to it multiple times, or they can throw it in the bin. It's really, really up to them. There has been quite a few control contracts in place that I have noticed. And generally there can be contract in relation to another soul. And generally, none of the control contracts that I have encountered during all my sessions have ever been in the client's best interest. So I do allow them to rip them up. Well, I give them the option to lift it up to their best and highest good. So there are the 3 contracts that I've encountered. I also, as I said, I studied with Dolores Cannon, and when we studied, she did talk about the 3 most contracts that she saw that were very similar to this that people kept with them, and these were the 3. So poverty and abstinence and control or obedience. So there are a lot of other contracts out there. As I said, like there's karmic contracts that you have, but these are the 3 negative ones that I have noticed that have really affected people here. So it's always good to remove them. And as always, you don't want anyone to have control over you. That's never a good thing. You don't want people to, abstinence, you don't want to have sexual dysfunction or relationship dysfunction, because it's not all about sex. So you don't want to have a relationship dysfunction with someone because maybe whatever reason that is. And money, we want money and abundance. We want money and abundance to flow to us always as much as it can, and for what we're here to do as our life, as we've already signed that soul contract. So our life, it's on its journey, but we don't want to be stopping that if possible. So they're the 3 contracts. Have you encountered a contract? When you did a past life session, did your hypnotherapist or psychic or whoever you did a past life session with, did they encounter any of these contracts? Do you think you may have a contract that could be affecting anything? Love to know below. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen or watch if you're on YouTube. If you are here, please hit subscribe. So hit subscribe so you can catch up with all the latest updates. There will be some interviews I have coming up with some of my amazing clients who want to talk about what it was like to do a past life session. If you're interested in doing your own past life session, I do online past sessions, and I do them face to face. So if it's something you want to explore online, let me know. I will pop my booking link below. And other than that, have an amazing day, guys. And go out and have fun and not be held by any contracts, because we don't have any. We're here to just live this amazing life, have a great time, and just have a good one.